Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I've recently got a lot of questions regarding spinnerbait colors. Not types of spinnerbaits, not spinnerbait blade combinations, but the skirt color. And it's always interesting to me because you see these questions come in groups based on the time of year and the different things that are going on. And lately we've seen a lot of people catching fish on spinnerbaits in some national tournaments. Plus, it's spinnerbait time. Fish are starting to move out of winter into spring transition, and spinnerbaits are really starting to be a bigger role. And I think over the last couple of years, we've seen more of a resurgence of a spinnerbait as the vibrating jigs kind of cool off a little bit. So I figured I'd go ahead and answer the question because I've gotten probably over the last month, I've probably gotten 6 or 7 questions regarding the skirt colors. And to me, it's a pretty basic decision. I try to keep it simple. When you look at some of the different color combinations that are out there, it's really overwhelming. I mean, there are so many different shad color patterns out there where you have, 90% of the skirt is all the same. And then instead of it being a little bit of blue, maybe you've got a little bit of green mixed in or a little bit of, whatever color you want to mix in. So there's a lot of very close similarities between skirts, and I think a lot of times as anglers we make it way too overwhelming. So I've got 5 here that are basically the only spinnerbait colors that I throw. There are some one-off instances where I may pick up something a little bit different, but generally speaking, I'm trying to mimic I'm trying to mimic shad or trying to mimic bait fish just because that's what a spinnerbait does. You've got a lot of flash, the bait's up off the bottom, and therefore it's a bait that the fish are looking at as a forage species. So having said that, generally speaking, most of the forage species out there are going to be your lighter shades of, silver and whites and just different shad-based colors. But I do have some other colors I like to throw in at times. So I'm going to go over these with you just to hopefully simplify your process and prevent you from having to purchase a ton of different skirt colors that are out there. So let's dive right into it. The first one I'm going to go with is probably the most basic and standard color that I like to throw. This one, honestly, is probably what I throw, I'm going to say 75% of the time. And it's a standard chartreuse and white colored blade. This is more of a little bit more of a translucent white. So I would consider this more of a spot remover color, but most companies will call it their chartreuse and white color. I like it when it's more translucent, more of a spot remover, just because that's a little bit better for clear water in my eyes. But generally speaking, a chartreuse and white or a translucent white and chartreuse are going to be one of the absolute staples. If I had to guess, I don't have stats to this, but if I had to guess, I would say that this is probably the #1 selling combination out there. Does a very, very good job of mimicking bait fish in both clear water and dark water. So if I could only choose one skirt color, it would be a chartreuse and white or a spot killer, spot remover type color. So that's going to be my go-to in most instances. Now, having said that, if we've got really muddy water, that's when I like to go to something along the lines of this coleslaw colored spinnerbait skirt. This is where you've got just pretty much straight white mixed in with a little bit of chartreuse and orange. This is a very bright color in dirty water conditions. So when you might get a lot of that early spring runoff and you get some dirty, muddy type water coming in, that's when I like to go with a much brighter skirt, a much louder skirt color. Now, this is not something I would throw under clear water conditions, but when I'm talking about off-colored, muddy water conditions, I absolutely will go with that coleslaw colored skirt. I'll put links to all these in the video description, so if one of these specific ones interests you, you can go with it. Now, if I'm fishing really clear water, this does not make a whole lot of sense, but if I'm fishing really clear water for smallmouth, that's when I go with an all chartreuse one, like this one, chartreuse blades, as well as chartreuse skirt. There is something about the color chartreuse that drives smallmouth wild. So if you happen to be on like the Great Lakes or some gin clear bodies of water where you can get away with burning a spinnerbait, I would definitely recommend this as your top color choice if you're fishing smallmouth. Now, doesn't quite work as good if you're chasing largemouth, but It's one of those things, if you're specifically chasing smallmouth in really clear bodies of water up north, all chartreuse, chartreuse skirt, chartreuse blades, that's what you're gonna need. I've cashed a lot of money on this exact one. This is a War Eagle spinnerbait. This is a really good one. They have the color down perfectly. That's the one that I like to throw. Now, if this is getting a little bit more specific, but one of the places I love to fish a spinnerbait is in Florida. Now, when I'm in Florida, I don't know why I've had really good success on it, but this skirt specifically, this is the sexy purple shad color. It's a War Eagle color. So you can see it's got some dark purple back, almost June buggy color mixed in with some white. And then it's got some yellow highlights on the side. It's been a phenomenal color for me in Florida. It works wonders in tannic colored water. And the reason I started using this in Florida is because we have a lot of tannic stained lakes in northern Wisconsin. And this is the color that I do excellent in northern Wisconsin in that tannic bodies of water. So when I got to Florida, saw that tannic coffee colored water, this was the color I went with, and it's my best color by far in Florida. As you can see, I also color the blades purple. I take a Sharpie marker and color the blade purple just to give it a little bit more of that darker purple flash. But again, this video is about skirt colors, not necessarily blade combinations or colors. So if I'm in Florida, this is the one I'm going with, sexy purple shad. The last one has to do with night fishing. If I'm night fishing, which I don't do a whole lot of, I used to do a lot more of, but a spinnerbait is a killer bait for night fishing. When I'm doing that, I like to go with really dark skirts, blacks, purples, but for some reason, I find a little bit of pink really helps. And this is something that a buddy of mine down in the Kentucky Lake area shared with me probably 15 years ago at this point. And that's, they do a ton of night fishing there in the summer. And one of the killers is this guy right here. This is just a really good dark purple skirt with a little bit of black, but then it's got some pink highlights. Again, it's an all purple blade, blade as well as a purple head. This is a Cumberland Pro Lures. I'll put the links up. This is a specific one for night fishing, big dark blade, but I like to go with these darker colored spinnerbaits when night fishing. It gives a good silhouette against the surface because you're in low light conditions, and the fish seem to really find it and react well to it. So those are them. Those are the 5 colors that I really like to carry with me from a spinnerbait standpoint. So if you had to go out and you're looking to purchase some, depending on where you might live, you might want to follow these guidelines. They might point you in the right direction. Don't be afraid to skew away from them a little bit as well, but those are kind of the primary base colors that I think you'd need. So hopefully this answers the questions that I've been getting from viewers out there. If it did and you enjoyed the video, but you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. And at the same time, hit the like button. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.